The recommendations from the OIPRD report that shook the city's police service last year have begun to be implemented. Chief Sylvie Hoth provided a 6-month update on the changes and improvements that the police service has made after being put under the microscope. The OIPRD report took center stage at today's police board meeting, but it wasn't the only item on the agenda. Alana Pickrell reports.
44 recommendations came out of last December's OIPRD report that highlighted systemic racism inside the police service. Now, 6 months after the report was delivered, the police service continues to work towards change. And among the major tasks is a reinvestigation of 9 deaths that were identified in the report.
So we've been working very closely with the Chief Coroner's Office, and it's very important for us to have a very strong structure in place with the resources that we need to be effective in our next steps for the reinvestigation. So as I outlined, we're looking kind of at a 3-tiered level process with more of an executive oversight.
The 3 tiers would include an executive governance committee, an investigation resource committee, and a blended investigative team. Actual team members have not yet been confirmed. But if all goes to plan, the reinvestigation into the 9 cases will be completed within a year. Chief Hoth also says that within the 2019 budget, the force was able to put a big focus on 8 out of the 44 recommendations, and she says they have been moving along at a good pace. But Board Chair Selina Reitberger was hoping to be farther along at the 6-month mark.
I have to say that I would have hoped we were farther along, but I understand the challenges that are present. So I would have to say I'd give them an 85%.
Hoth also gave an update on the grant applications. Right now, she says the force hasn't applied for the $5.1 million from the Ministry for the Guns and Gang support, and that the application still hasn't been made available. However, there are 3 other grants that could help Thunder Bay Police if they come through.
So we've applied to 2 local initiatives, which kind of replaces our old PAVIS 1,000 officer program. And the last one is a provincial priority grant.
The provincial grant is focused on human trafficking. In regards to the $200,000 bill that the threats at Hammersholt High School racked up, Hoth says there is a chance for them to get back some of the costs.
What we do in matters like this is we provide the information to the Crown. So is there an opportunity for restitution? Sure.
Hoth says it's important to show the courts the amount of resources that were used during these calls. Alana Pickrell, TBT News.
The fight to keep Stacey DeBungy's investigation open to the public continues. The body of 41-year-old DeBungy was found in the McIntyre River in October 2015. And the actions of 3 officers involved in the sudden death investigation have been called into question after it was announced that foul play was not suspected even before an autopsy had been conducted. DeBungy's home community, the Rainy River First Nation, and the CBC have won the right to apply to the Court of Appeal to have a public hearing in the investigation. That hearing will be decided whether or not the officers involved will be subject to a disciplinary hearing. Normally, disciplinary hearings under the Police Services Act are held within 6 months. But because the OIPRD report took more than 2 years to complete, an extension of the timeline needed to be granted. Thunder Bay Police lawyer Holly Walborn updated the board earlier today.
We have been through the courts throughout the latter part of 2018 into the early part of 2019. The divisional court indicated that it should be heard in camera. On the back of that, the complainants, as well as CBC, brought a motion for leave to appeal to the Court of Appeal. We just recently heard within the last month from the Court of Appeal that that leave is granted. So we will be going to the Court of Appeal to decide on the issue of whether or not these applications should be heard in camera.
Walburn says there is no current timeline for the Court of Appeals to hear the application, but there is a conference call scheduled for tomorrow morning, which might determine more specific dates.